afternoon, good evening, whatever it might be, wherever it is that you are. We're back on the 425 show. We've got our friend Christos here. We've also got a special guest today, Mr. Matt Ellis, coming to us from JetBrains. So, good morning, gentlemen. How's everybody?
Good morning. Yeah, I'm doing fine. It's a good afternoon for me, though. I'm in the UK, so I've got a different time zone to you lot there.
True.
We always think in
the
time
whole
zones these days.
Is what now?
We always think in time zones because
We
me
always
and
think in
JP
time
are on different time zones. So for me, it's at least dual time zone.
Yeah. I still get confused. I mean, I know it's just adding numbers, but it gets me every time.
So we had a bunch of conferences this week, Christos. We did we did .NET Conf, and it was cool to see some of our friends there from the show. And then we had our middle of the night one, about 8 hours later, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
yes.
And Bolt asked if it was weird to see us with backgrounds. It was kind of weird. I was like, well, what background? I need a background. I don't know what to do. Because my office doesn't look, let's see. My office is not very clean right now, as you can see.
Presentable.
Yeah. So my wife was like, well, I'm not going to let you broadcast that dirty office across on the internet. I'm like, nobody watches anyway. What are you worried about? But yeah, it was cool. Those conferences were cool, and we've gotten a bunch of people calling and asking about how do we do this with Azure Arc and everything else. And I spent a bunch of time Wednesday building out a hybrid managed identity sort of plugin for Azure Identity, and I was really excited about it. And then I went to go put in a PR and found that somebody had beaten me to it by 4 days, which, I mean, that's fine. I'm glad that it's going to be coming. But I was a little disappointed that I'd put in all the work. So I guess learn from my mistakes. Put in your... go check for other people's PRs on the same thing you're working on before actually doing any of the work. But it is pretty cool. I think we will get to a point eventually where you just say, sign me in, or use the managed identity, and you're going to get an identity from almost anywhere when it comes to working with Azure, which is going to be really cool. So,
yeah, and there's also exciting work happening in the background. We're working with those teams as well to make mass identity more transient and more available, not with just Arc, but being able to work with mass identity on your local machine. I think that would be an interesting one. So let's give a shout out to our regulars. We have Code with Sean, we have Bolt, we have Robert Tables. Thank you guys for joining us this morning, or afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. And then we have Unbanu on the Microsoft Developer channel watching us. Thanks everyone for joining on the Microsoft Developer channel as well. Today we're doing Kotlin with our friend Matt Ellis. In case you haven't met Matt before or haven't had the joy to see him code or present live, Matt is awesome. I met him a few years ago. He's a developer advocate for JetBrains, our good friends at JetBrains. In fact, we had Martin a month ago, right, to do some rider stuff, and we'll be having more people from JetBrains coming on the show. He's been developing for 20 years, which is scary thinking about it. I wasn't even in uni 20 years ago.
I'm sorry, you weren't even what 20 years ago?
In university.
Oh.
I started my degree in 2001. Uni.
Oh, uni. Okay. It's not what it sounded like to me. I thought you said something else and thought, that's a lot of information to be sharing, but thanks thanks for playing.
I don't know if uni means something else in your side of the woods, but yeah. And uni in the UK.
And
college.
Bolt is in Cardiff, and he asks where you might be, Matt, if you're near him.
Oh yeah.
So
don't disclose too much.
You don't have to tell everybody. We can talk about it secretly. So, and then and Bolt, I got your note, Bolt. Hang on, is everybody? What? We can't hear Matt. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I just realized I was muted. Sorry, guys.
No sweat.
It's fine.
Well, I can put Bolt out of his misery, and I'm in the Midlands, so I'm slap bang in the middle of the country.
Nice.
And then I got an email from Bolt this week about B2C IAF policy metadata, and I've been meaning to write you back, but it's been a bit of a wild week. About whether or not the relying party policies would be available. and getting that included in, I will make sure the output of the private API call is at least bubbled up as something that could be available for something available through the graph. I don't really know what the futures look like for all of the B2C stuff. I know there have been a lot of discussions around, because of course we get asked for things like tenant creation all the time, and particularly around like CI/CD of, well, I want to spin up a tenant, push my policies, run my apps, run my web tests, and then trash the whole tenant. We know there's been a bunch of discussion because I know people are asking. So I will ask around and see what I can find on getting those policies. So, because right now they've only got the IDs. If you put the ID into the graph, do you not get the rest of the info if you put the ID in as a resource path? I'm a little curious. I'm gonna go check myself just to make sure, but I thought you had the ability to pull a good amount of data on the trust framework policies out, but I'm gonna go sign in and take a look just so that we can check. Oh, right. I see. I understand the question. Okay, I'm with you now, Bolt. Yep, I'll dig into it and let you know.
We don't have lots of news this week. Well, we have 2 news, right? One is major. I'm pretty excited about it. We have Node MSAL, an MSAL library for Node itself. So this is a pure Node library that we're just released, and we're probably going to get somebody from the team, hopefully early next week, to talk about Node and show us some examples of how to use it, where to use it, and why it's different, what we added to the library. So that's pretty exciting. We will add the link in a bit. Then the other exciting news for our B2C fans is that we actually have a new Azure monitor for B2C. So in Azure Monitor, you can actually now follow. JP, I've added the link there if you want to share the link on your screen. It's on Skype. So if you want to grab that link and show people, there you go. That's the Node stuff. Okay, thank you for sharing that. And then there's a link on Skype for the new monitoring capabilities for B2C, which I think it's been always in high demand.
Yeah, I think we get that question a lot around operationalizing B2C. So how do I make sure that all the admins and security folks and monitoring people and ops people, that everybody has everything they need to use B2C sort of as a proper mission critical service? Because of course, if it's if it's going to be a service that your apps are going to depend on, you're going to be in a place where your expectations are going to be relatively high around what you can do with it. And so there are some new providers for Azure Monitor for stuffing the B2C sign-in and audit logs into pushing the B2C audit logs and sign-in logs into Azure Monitor, so that you can do alerting and visualizing and all that sort of fun stuff that you could do with regular Azure AD. You can do that now with B2C. So that was pretty exciting. Yes. The Node library is exciting because the Node library means that for server-side apps that are using Node, you can now use MSAL.js. So that's what that link is for. And interestingly enough, there's never really been an MSAL for Node. There's always been authentication libraries that use things like Express, and of course because there are
Passport,
like Passport for signing users in. But when it came time to actually go get tokens and go through the expected motions the same way you would normally, it was a bit more of a headache. You either had to use a third-party library or you had to do it yourself, which it's all standards based, so using another library wasn't necessarily a bad thing. But we now have one that matches the same pattern you'd be used to if you're using MSAL otherwise. So the same acquire token silent, acquire token redirect, etc. There's even
consistency.
Yeah, there's even support for auth code with Pixie, which is super cool. So you can do PKCE server side right out of the box. That's one of the original ones. And then, of course, confidential clients. So if you're building back-end processes, services, whatever, that need to talk to Graph or need to talk to your own APIs or talk to some other Microsoft API, you can now use confidential clients and client credentials to go get to go get access tokens for other services. So that's really cool. Like if we were to go rewrite Thrasman today in Node, then getting
No more Thrasman.
Yeah.
I'm fed up with it.
Fed up with it? What are you fed up with?
We've done like 5 shows with Thrasman, man.
Well, I mean, that's a lot of work. Somebody's got to do it.
It was a lot of work. I'm just messing with you. Also, we have Corey Weathers coming this Friday to do notifications for Thrasman, so we're not really done with it. I mean, we're just messing with it.
I don't think we'll ever be actually done with it. It's like every great piece of software. It's never done. And then it lives long enough to become the villain, and then you hate it. So.
Well, it's open source. You can extend it as much as you want. But right now, we have gotten to the point that you can call Alexa and say, Alexa, go and wipe out my resources on Azure. Or you can say, Google, Google, go and delete everything I have on Azure so I don't have to pay anything for it. Just don't do what Chris did prior to my .NET Conf demos and delete your resources that you need for your demos.
Yeah.
Which
reminds me that my dates are coming up, and I think I'm gonna have some resources start to get wiped out here pretty soon. So
you might want to turn off your.
I'm not going to turn it off until we're ready with our notifications. So
hey, we have a question on the Microsoft Developer channel. Somebody's just saying, can we do something with WebGL in WebAssembly? This is actually super cutting edge stuff. I don't know. We haven't done anything with WebGL yet. And I assume that what Unbanu is asking is probably doing something with authentication and WebGL and WebAssembly. Is that what you're asking? Let us know exactly what you want us to do with WebGL, and we'll look into that. Somebody asked for Kotlin, and we got Kotlin today. So there you have it. You ask and you shall get.
Well, I mean, WebGL and WebAssembly is more about sort of the graphic side, but I guess you still may want to sign into something, and then if what comes out of that is GL driven, I wonder how hard or easy it would be to render any sort of like authentication pages or anything like that, to render those in WebGL rather than just normal.
Ooh, maybe some graph data.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know.
So
that'll be.
Yeah, we'll have to.
That's definitely an interesting example, right?
Yeah, we'll have to.
You give us an excuse to look into a technology, and we will do it. It's the identity show that is more than just identity. Remember?
Yep. So we've got Matt Ellis here with us from JetBrains. And he's going to be kind of taking us on a little trip into Kotlin. We're going to help figure out how to get some stuff done in Kotlin. Does that sound good, Matt? I think you're still muted. I think you're still muted.
It's not you. It's not you, JP. Is it? It's Matt. Matt, if you can hear us, you're muted.
Yeah, I think that
quote of 2020.
Yeah, it is also Friday the 13th. I realized. So, Yeah. In fact, I need a shirt that says "You're muted." Maybe that's what I'll get myself for Christmas. Is a "You're muted" shirt.
I'll get you that one, and I'll get the "Born Ready" T-shirt.
We still can't hear Matt. It could be
technical
could
issue.
be a Skype issue too, I guess. But
he was switching. Maybe it's your virtual machine that knocked things off, Matt. When you turn around, he has to say, "But I'm immutable." Oh snap! Do you see that?
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. See, but I'll have to attribute that quote to you.
How about this?
Oh, now you're back.
There you
now
go.
You're back, Matt.
Matt is back.
All right, see, I've got my nice expensive microphone. It's not working. So, I'm on the headphones. Let me just try one last time. How about now?
Yes.
Oh well. No. Oh no, that's on the wrong one. And
now we can't hear you again. That's what we need to do is we need to do a full show on strictly on troubleshooting microphone issues with Skype and
OBS.
And OBS, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, fine. Well, I'll just ignore the nice expensive microphone and we'll go with the headphones and hope that works. Okay.
Oh man.
We can hear you okay. It sounds pretty good. So
we can hear you fine.
That's good. Good. We'll go with this then. So so we did. I got asked to do some stuff with Kotlin and
strong arm, more likely.
Strong arm, yeah, exactly. I did point out that actually, I'm a .NET advocate, so there are probably more people better qualified to be talking about this than me. But yeah, we're going to have a look to sort of see what we can do, really. So I know a bit of Kotlin. I know nothing about Azure, or even how it's pronounced or anything. So we'll have a go and have a look at something. So my background, as I say, is a .NET advocate. Really, I work with Rider on the whole, working with some of the games development stuff as well. So Unity and Unreal and things like that. So there's not a huge overlap there. But one of the things I do is I work on the Unity support in the product itself of Rider. So and Rider is written in both C# and Kotlin. So I get to write Kotlin there. I also contribute to the Idea Vim plugin for IntelliJ as well, for all of the IntelliJ products. So I've got a good helping with Kotlin there, but I'm not a web guy. So this is going to be completely made up.
A learning experience for everyone here, right?
A learning experience for everybody. So I've brought some Kotlin. Hopefully, we're going to bring some Azure, and we'll see what we can make happen. We'll have a look at that.
And I love how you start with an ASP.NET Core.
Yeah.
Sorry, ASP.NET 5? Are you ASP.NET 5 today? Did you download since yesterday?
No, I haven't. I was very tempted to download Big Sur, but Friday the 13th and
they actually released today, right?
It is. It's released today. So I thought, yes. So I thought it was probably not a good idea to try and update my operating system while trying to do all this as well. So I kind of, because I don't know a huge amount of all of this, I went to the samples and had a look at those, and I found a nice sample here. So can you see my screen right now?
We can see your screen. Hey, quick question. Since we're talking about Apple, let's take a very small detour. If I understand correctly, Big Sur is going to be the last operating system that runs on Intel. Is that correct?
I guess so.
So
yeah. So because they're starting to transition all the laptops, at least, and probably the big ones, to their own silicon, which is going to be fun.
Yeah, they announced this Tuesday. So I wonder how it's going to look like for you as a .NET developer, because you use both machines, I suppose, or both operating systems, right?
Yeah. So I'm primarily on Mac. I mean, right now I've got Mac I'm running on Mac, and I've got Windows in a VM, and I really like that because Mac make very nice hardware and lovely trackpads and all this kind of stuff. And so I'm a big complete Mac fanboy. I like running in Mac OS as well, and this is going to be quite fun because I do need to use a VM, and so I don't quite know what's going to happen in the future. I might actually have to buy a Windows laptop, which is, I don't want to think about it just yet. I'm going to put it off for a few years, and it's fine. This is quite a recent MacBook, but I was watching the event the other night, and it's like shiny stuff, and it's like I could do with some of those things. And the numbers they're saying for performance and battery life look pretty impressive. So if they pull that off, that'll be very, very cool. But
agreed.
Flip side to that is, everything is cross-platform these days. So we've got .NET, which is cross-platform, and it can be recompiled to ARM. And I think Microsoft have already said that they are working. I think they said way back in the first announcement that they were working on a proper native port of .NET for macOS for the new chips there, and basically, everyone's going to move on to have proper native builds of their stuff for there. So that'll be good. I mean, we should be able to do some fun things, I think.
Yeah, I wonder how many of our friends here on the show actually use Macs over Windows machines. Anyway, sorry for the slight diversion there.
No, it's no problem. But as I was saying, I went looking for samples, and a nice sample I found was this one here, this ASP.NET sample. It's a classic ASP.NET MVC, and it is a to-do list with a web app and a web API. And I thought, well, why don't we try and move that over to Kotlin? And I got part of the way through doing that, but I haven't done any of the authentication. So just to sort of run through this, if you click in the top right, we've got the sign in. We can sign in with your Microsoft account, and after a sec,
Ooh, yes, Bolt.io got it.
Yeah, we'll take one more quick diversion. So you see up at the top, Christus, you want to show off your cup? We finally got some swag ordered, like proper things, cups, cups and water bottles, and all sorts of fun stuff. And if you want some, go to that link, which is just to an email address, and send us your stories. Send us what you're working on. Tell us how we're doing. Give us feedback, good or bad, personal attacks, whatever. Depending on the strength of the personal attack, we may put other things in the cup. But yeah, absolutely. Send us stories about what you're working on, what you're building, how identity has sort of been the bane of your existence in the software that you're building, or how it's gone really well and you never expected it was going to be that easy. Just tell us how you're feeling. Tell us how you feel about our platform and the kind of identity challenges you have. And if you don't mind giving us an address, it doesn't have to be yours, just somewhere you can access. We will send you some stuff. So we've got cups, mugs. We've got like stickers and shirts and all sorts of fun stuff that's come in. So yeah, send us a note. Let us know how you're getting on and if there's anything new that we can do to help. And as Robert Table says, yeah, I mean sometimes my identity is the bane of my own existence, especially my digital identity. So. So yeah, but no, tell us about your software identity issues, not your own personal identity issues. We're going to come to find that Robert Tables is actually all of the people in the chat right now, just under different accounts. He's got 48 windows open, but yeah, send us your stories, send us your notes, and send us your address if you want, and we will send you some stuff. So, and if you work for a government, make sure you tell us so that we don't get in trouble. But if you don't work for a government, we'll send you stuff all day long. So, sorry, go ahead, Matt.
Government like the CIA spies.
Well, they're like it's like, hey, would you like to send this person some things? Here's a list of rules. Oh, they work for a government.
Yes. Yeah.
The list of rules is now a very large scroll that gets printed on dot matrix boxes of dot matrix stuff. So.
Yeah. Besides, if they work for the CIA, they can't tell you. So.
That's right, and they already know how to get one of the cups if they really wanted one. So and Bolt says that if it wasn't for us, he'd be working right now. So I mean, clearly we are a positive impact upon the world. So.
The other way to actually get it is you can actually come to the show like Citizen Map is, and or our friend Matt. And you can build something with us on the show, and then you get some nice swag as well.
Yeah, you get to share what you know with all of your with all of our people in the internet. And
you see, I think the downside to that is you're going to have to I've got to build something and show you what I know, and you're not going to be pleased by the outcome. I don't think so.
Hey,
I'm going to pull it off first.
And thanks.
We got Frank.
Yeah, Frank just brought over a bunch of his friends. Thanks for coming over, Frank, and bringing all your friends with us. Today we're doing some Kotlin. We're trying to figure out how to do different things. Figuring out how to do different things with Kotlin and Azure and Azure AD, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Once we let Matt write some code.
If we can stop talking long enough for Matt to actually write some code, then yeah.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. Okay. So right, I'm going to take it back then. So this thing has now logged in. And you can have a look at claims, and it'll list the claims in your identity there. So it's a nice little sample there. It's also got some to-do things there, which you can talk to a web service and what have you. And I thought I would kind of do a similar thing then, but with Kotlin. Basically, port that over to Kotlin badly. So I've got a local web service running, and it basically does nothing. If I click on claims, there's nothing there, obviously, because I'm not logged in. Same with tasks, and sign up hasn't been implemented yet. So this is the project I've got. This is I can take you sort of quickly through what we've got going on here. I'm using IntelliJ IDEA as the IDE to work with Kotlin. Naturally enough, because JetBrains says on the thing. And I've got two services. I've got So I'm not sure how familiar everybody is with Kotlin. So I don't know whether you want me to sort of explain, give an outline of the project.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Show
Actually,
a few things.
Yeah.
All right. So let's close a couple of things down first of all. Then, so there are a couple of different ways of building projects with Kotlin and anything on the JVM basically. But probably the almost standard, the favorites is to use Gradle, and this is no exception. I've got a Gradle application going on here. And basically, I've got 3 projects. I've got my root project, which is what this one is that I'm showing now. And then I've got a to-do app and a to-do service. And the app and the service obviously build 2 little web servers, which will do everything for us. And this defines, the root project defines a number of dependencies that we're going to use first. I use up some, first of all, we sort of apply the Kotlin plugin. So that sort of sets up Kotlin for us. We tell Gradle where it can download a whole bunch of things for us. And then we've got all of our dependencies here. And the first thing is the Kotlin standard library. So Kotlin is a language which targets, it actually targets a lot of different platforms. So it can target the JVM, and that's where most people know it from as an alternative to Java and running on the JVM. But it can also target JavaScript, and it can also compile down to native code as well. So there's different ways of working with it. And so you kind of need to bring in a standard library as well. And the standard library is targeted to like a different version of the JDK as well. So we're bringing, JDK for version 8. And then the rest of it really is the web framework we're using. And that's a framework which JetBrains is writing called Ktor. And again, nice. I'm using this as a learning experience to try and learn Ktor. And so I can show you a few fun things there. There's a couple of tasks going on here. This is just to generate a self-signed certificate to get everything running, so we don't need to worry too much about that. If I have a look at the app and the service, there's another Gradle file in each of these. These are fairly boring, and they just tell Gradle where to go and find the files, the source files, the test files, and the resources. The same there. So that's basically it for the build. In fact, I've got left boilerplate stuff in that one. So that's basically it for the build type stuff. You get then a nice little Gradle window here with showing you the tasks that are available, and you can sort of run the individual service by itself as well, so we can get rid of that. This is a very sort of simple way of working, actually. The Ktor thing. Ktor is it's a really nice lightweight framework, and I'm only introduced to it in the last day or two. But it's really nice. It's very lightweight and designed to be able to sort of be hosted anywhere and run on top of different sort of engines and things. So here we're using Netty as the way of hosting it. And other than that, it's a self-contained executable, and it works really nicely. In fact, you can see here, this is the one line to get everything going there. We've got a main function, and that basically calls into the engine main of Netty, starts everything up, and that wires everything up there. And then below here in our module, we can see how things go. Interesting thing for Kotlin as well, if you're not familiar with Kotlin, you're going to see we've got functions everywhere. And so main is a good one because main is a top-level function. And so a difference here with .NET and Java, for example, things don't have to be in classes. And that's really nice. So you if you want to have like a whole bunch of helper methods, quite often in Java or in C#, you would create a static class and have a whole load of static methods and use those and call those. And nice. There's no real need for that because you've already got your package there to sort of group things. So you've kind of got one way of grouping it and then another way of grouping things and then a whole load of functions. And it's like, put them as top level functions. It gets rid of a lot of ceremony and it's just a whole lot easier and a whole lot nicer. And that's one of the nice things about Kotlin is it's quite terse. And in fact, if you're coming from the C# world, you'll feel very much at home with Kotlin. There's a number of sort of similarities going on there. Same with Java as well, actually. I mean, they're all sort of from the same sort of family of curly braces and C-based languages. So there's a certain amount of familiarity, and there's a whole load of nice, fun things in there as well. Pun not intended. I'm just going to say that. So I'm going to skip a couple of things there, and I'll get straight into the module. We define this. This is an extension method. This is like again, if you're from the C# world, you're going to be familiar with extension methods. How you can have a method which looks like, when it's called, it looks like an instance method. And in C# world, you pass the instance as the first parameter with a this keyword. In Kotlin, you have the type you're extending as the start of their application dots. So we're extending the application. And right now, we've now got this. It's available here, and this is application. So it's kind of like extension methods in C#, but kind of a slightly different way of doing it. And the nice way of doing this means you can have properties as well. So you can have extension properties, which you can't do with the same sort of syntax in C#. So this sort of sets everything up, and it creates your application or your module. You can install a bunch of things there. You can install headers, core logging. We can install Mustache, which is a templating library, and I'll show you some more of those in a minute. You can install some authentication and do some stuff there. We're going to try and figure out what that means shortly. Similar sort of thing with content negotiation, so you can return back JSON and stuff like that. You can set up the HTTP client for calling HTTP services. So if I want to call this web API, then I need to use this HTTP client. I need to do some extra sort of stuff here to say allow for self-signed certificates. And then I get onto my routing, and this is where things get a little bit more interesting, and I get to sort of control what happens. One thing you can notice is this is looking kind of DSL-ish, which is rather nice. I don't think DSL-ish is actually a word, but it is now. I've just coined it. One thing which Kotlin does is it says that if the last parameter of a method, of a function, is a lambda of some kind, you don't have to use the brackets. So if I go to the definition of this, we can see that actually that parameter there is a method. It's just being taken in as a function. And what we need to do is we don't need to use the brackets here, and so we can just use it as with the braces, and it gives us this kind of DSL type look, which is really nice. You can see the same sort of thing there with static. Static has got a string parameter, and then it takes in a function, which allows you to configure it. And this gives us a really sort of nice way of working here. So we can call this method static, which is saying I want to serve static files. The path I want it to be when it gets called remotely is going to be /scripts, and then this is what I want to do to finish building it. And so this is kind of, I can configure it and do everything. The other really interesting thing with this is this syntax here is it kind of hurts your head a little bit to start with, because you're actually passing in an extension method, which is kind of weird. Why would you pass in an extension? It means you can have it scoped, and also when I get called here, this is the root there. So I've got an implicit this property here, which is really nice. And so again, it makes it easier. I don't have to do it dot something or the root dot something and do it. I've just got this, and I can just start to configure it straight from there. So this is configuring routing. I've got some static content being matched there, and then I just start to match routes, and then I do stuff. And here, match the home routes, and I'm going to just very simply respond with a Mustache template. The template's going to be home.hbs, and then I give it a map of values of things that I can use in the template to configure things. And if we go and quickly have a look at some of the templates.
And
so
those are handlebars like front-end templates. Okay, cool. Okay.
Nice. There's a question. Why do Java-based MSAL app registration, or why do Java app-based MSAL app registrations require implicit flow? Seems like another requirement.
Yeah, they won't forever. If they still do currently, which we'll have to go and look and see if they do. If they still do currently, once those get updated, they will not. So right now there's sort of a threshold between implicit and PKCE, and it requires some changes for implicit to not work, and to switch purely to PKCE. Like that's what's already been done in MSAL browser for browser-based stuff. That's what's been done in MSAL.net and MSAL Node. It just hasn't made it to MSAL Java yet. And I'll look and see what the MSAL Java roadmap looks like to see when that's going to be available in Java. So, sorry, continue.
So these are the templates, and these are the templates that we're showing. There's I've closed it. I didn't want to do that because That was a special instance of Chrome, which allows me to ignore self. Oh, for goodness sake! Click, click. Can't do it up again. It allows you to ignore certificate errors.
Oh.
That's okay.
Post 8443. There we go. Back. So so I wanted to. The self-signed certificate. It means I don't have to. It's too much nonsense. Just whatever. So there's our big Kotlin, and obviously there it is there in the jumbotron. Good name. I like it. And this is the way that templates work in handlebars there. Yeah, you got this is going to be, I'm defining a page body and I'm saying put that into layout, and I've got layout here, which is my main page, and further down here I've got use page body, and that's it. So that's nice and simple and straightforward. And I've got a number of routes then which are going to go off and do things. So for example, if we wanted to display the claims, all we need to do is obviously get the credentials, get the claims, and then pass them into the map, and we can then sort of use that to display stuff. And so this is then the skeleton outline of the same service which we had in ASP.NET. And the interesting thing, the fun stuff, is the sign up, sign in link, which currently does nothing. So that is hitting this route, and we don't have anything there.
Nice.
So that is now when we need to try and figure out what on earth we do next. And your guess is as good as mine right now. This is going to be fun. So we need to have a look to see how Ktor does authentication, and also then how we can wire that up then into the B2C flow. So I've got, where are we? I've got...
Oh, there's a question. Faraday Frank is asking, which ID are you using for Kotlin just now?
This is IntelliJ IDEA. So you're just using IntelliJ IDEA. I'm using the current 2020.3, which we're releasing in the next month or so. The final release this year, and it's in beta. And yes, that's it. So IntelliJ IDEA is really our flagship IDE for Kotlin. Although you can use Kotlin in other IDEs as well. I think we've got support for VS Code and also Eclipse. So, and I think you probably can do it in Vim as well if you really want to go for it. But there we go. So I've got Rider here as well, and this is the magic line that does stuff in C#, in .NET, and we need to try and figure out how to do the same sort of thing in Kotlin, basically. Right. And I dare say we could probably use the MSAL for J.
Yeah, MSAL for J. Yeah, that's correct.
MSAL for J. So the other thing with Kotlin is that you can, of course, use it interoperates really nicely with Java. So you don't need to do anything. You can just sort of use your Java applications and your Java libraries as is.
Does it create wrappers at runtime to interop with Java, or does it natively call Java? Nice.
It just natively calls Java. I mean, it is. I mean, they're both basically they're both running on the JVM. So it's just two different JVM bits talking to each other. So in the same way that on .NET, for example, C# and VB and F#, they're all nicely interoperable. More or less, with some, some of the idiomatic things don't necessarily fit nicely, but you can call them all directly and straightforward. You can do exactly the same with Kotlin and Java, and of course other JVM languages as well. So you can just use those directly. The interesting things is where along the integration point there is the nullability. So Kotlin is it's a non-nullable. It's got nullability baked into the type system. So nice. I could have a name which is going to be a string, and I could have let's make that into a var other name. And if I say that's, in fact, let's do it this way around. Let's have that as an array of string and make that null. And if I try and assign this, it'll tell me off. You say I can't do it because they don't match. Fairly obviously like that. And that's a very, very simple example, of course, but it works with return values of methods and things like that as well. So it'll tell you that you can't use something without checking that it's null or not null. And the interesting thing is that it's baked into the type system as well. So if you look at C# and C#8, that is not necessarily part of the type system. It's more about analysis, data flow analysis and inspections and annotations, whereas this is more of a type system thing. So you can't necessarily assign the two things here like this. The nullability in C# is opt-in, whereas Kotlin is just always there. But what happens then when you call a Java API which doesn't know anything about the nullability stuff? And so you've got to figure out how platform types work as well. So if I ask for a type from Kotlin API, give me a token, whatever, it'll return it back. But Kotlin, the compiler, won't know whether that's going to be a nullable value or a non-nullable value. And you have to basically tell it. You have to make that happen. A number of APIs are already annotated. They've got annotations. There's a number of annotations which you can use to pass that information. And when that information is available, Kotlin will use it and automatically make it a nullable type or a non-nullable type. But other than that, you have to decide. You have to either check for null or you have to say, okay, it's fine. I know this is not going to be null.
Right.
And work at it from there. But other than that, you can sort of interoperate with Java very easily.
Love it.
So if we go with MSAL, is that how it's pronounced? Is it? I've only seen it written down. Is that what the cool kids say?
MSAL?
MSAL. We go for MSAL for J. What would be the first thing we would be looking at doing here? I mean, obviously installing it, so I can get that installed nice and easily. I can add that into the Gradle. So if we just add it as an implementation dependency, so what's it going to be called?
So now what's the
group?
And we're using, so our sort of web framework is KTOR, right? Okay.
Yes.
So
and you can ktor.io.
Okay. So typically, there are kind of two mechanisms or two ways to make MSAL work. When you're using MSAL on the front end, like in a JavaScript app, a React or Angular or Next or Vue or whatever, on the JavaScript side, MSAL tends to handle both sign-in and token acquisition. So you kind of get both right out of the box because JavaScript applications are somewhat unique compared to others. On the server side, however, things are a little bit different. So usually, most of the libraries that we have for server-side apps, they tend to be, Bolt says, yeah, it either works or it's a feature. The server-side libraries tend to be more focused on, MSAL anyway, tend to be more focused on handling things like token acquisition. And depending on how we configure your app, we would probably look to KTOR to say, hey, how does KTOR sign a user in? Does it what kind of authentication methods does it have? And then we can figure out, okay, how are we going to get plugged in here? Because like in the case of ASP.NET, which of course is what we tend to do a whole lot of work with. In the case of ASP.NET, you sign in with ASP.NET, and ASP.NET issues a cookie, so that you don't have to constantly go back and forth back to the identity system. So you kind of go to the identity system once, you sign in, and then you get some data back, and ASP.NET Identity handles, oh, okay, I know who you are, and then creates an app local cookie. So that's sort of, that app local cookie is the output of that. But then, when we want to call an API, or if we want to do extra work, that's when we have to use MSAL. And MSAL is the library for going and fetching going and getting tokens or interacting with the backend identity system. So it'll kind of be two steps. The first step will be, well, let's see what KTOR's expectations are for authentication of how do you sign in a user, how do you issue a user cookie, that sort of thing. And then we'll figure out the best way to plug MSAL into that, because MSAL does also have some sort of like some helpers. So if we look at one of the OpenID flows, we call it the authorization code flow, where we send a user over to go sign in. User signs in. All that looks good. They sign in at Azure AD or whatever, Facebook or LinkedIn or whoever they're going to sign in. They get sent back to your application, and they have what is essentially a one-time code. And that one-time code, the server itself sends in a back channel to Azure AD or to the identity system to say, hey, I've got a user that has this code. I'm also going to identify myself as application 123. Please send me back user data about them. And so that's the what we call the authorization code flow. And MSAL has some helpers to make doing that a little bit easier. So we can generate a URL that we need to send the user to go and sign in. And then we can also make that back channel request to say, hey, this user has shown up with this, and I need to validate that this is correct, and then figure out who they are. So let's start on the KTOR side and see what kind of things we have available, because in some cases too, a lot of these frameworks have baked in support for things like OpenID Connect or for OAuth, and that makes it a whole lot easier too, because then instead of you having to do all the work yourself, usually those frameworks handle a lot of the work involved of understanding what those flows look like and how to do them.
I'm liking the sound of that. So it looks like we've got OAuth as part of KTOR here.
Okay.
Which is nice. And so one of the things we would need to do is, as part of our what am I trying to say? The application starting, we'd have to install authentication and define that we want to use OAuth or something. So can we use OAuth as part of this flow? Would that work okay?
Yeah.
Or do we want to do something like OAuth?
No. We can definitely use OAuth for this. So let's see. I'm going to pull up where you are and just go take a quick look myself. But no, we can definitely use OAuth. Are there any like community providers or anything like that KTOR has available?
Not that I'm aware of, to be honest.
Okay. And that's fine. Just more of a curiosity. So, okay. Let's see here. So first we need to figure out what KTOR's OAuth implementation looks like. And then, of course, we also have the Azure AD sort of config side of what we're going to do there. So first, let's look at the configuration side of for the OAuth settings, right? So how do we configure OAuth settings in KTOR? Where do we go to do that? So
it looks like you define your login providers here, and it gives you your OAuth settings there of having your name, URLs, tokens, and secrets and things. And seem to associate by name, which gives you a map in the end there. So we've got a login providers basically of maps. And here we've got then, when we're defining OAuth itself, the client we're going to use to talk, the HTTP client. So for I showed where I'm ignoring self-signed certificates.
Okay.
I go on those. And then you get to say, well, these are the providers I'm going to do here, and it resolves, what's that doing? Application locations. Cool. I don't quite know what that one's doing. We can figure that one out. That's doing it by the type.
Okay, so it looks like we're going to need... So it looks like we're going to have sort of a resolver that handles... Kind of looks like maybe it handles some of the back and forth. What is that? Is there a login class that's in this sample anywhere?
Let's see. Where are we? These are going to be...
That's probably
okay. Well, we have some examples over here as well. So we've got Google OAuth. We haven't got anything there, so we can blah 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 blah. That's setting up Google by the looks of it. Zoom past that.
Okay.
Configure application.
Okay.
We set up.
Okay.
Yeah, there, and we get set up the scopes as well. So that looks familiar. I
Install.
don't know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
Redirect probably.
Yeah, and then we've got a redirect URL going on there.
Yeah, this looks pretty.
Login. There you go. Then we have to find the login route. There you go. Must be authenticated.
So I reckon that route though is what we've got here in the application, which is our account sign up, sign in. So in the working version of that one, when we click that, it takes us off to our to the Azure Identity Providers list, and it says we can click on GitHub or Microsoft or put your own in. So I suspect that login route is the same thing there. So what we've got here. So authenticate using Google OAuth. The root is going to be, so that's telling us that the root needs to be authenticated.
Oh, okay.
And then we've got the handle then, which is telling us this is what we need to do there. So get me the principal from the OAuth token, go and speak to Google and get some information, and then pull that back out as whatever, and then redirect back to / once we're done.
page.
Yeah. So login then essentially becomes that the things that are happening at that login root. That sounds like that's essentially the thing that is sort of consuming the user, right? Consuming the OAuth token, and then it looks like that line call session sets. That's using session to set a session there for that user, and then we're sending it back. So okay, and it looks like most of the OAuth work is going to be handled by the OAuth provider rather than us having to do a bunch of work ourselves, which is of course great because we don't want to go and have to re-implement OAuth flows on our own.
Exactly,
that's correct.
It sounds good to me.
Okay. Oh, so here's the full one.
Here's the full example here as well.
Oh, perfect.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, even better.
So
we get to
So we're gonna have to
provider.
So we'll get our code work that we have to do, and then we have to go and get this hooked up somewhere for sign-in, like to a B2C directory or to Azure AD or whatever. So we can start wherever.
And I've got the values that I was using for my sample app there, which we can just throw those in. That should work okay, I guess.
So they may be a little bit different, but they should largely be the same. So that's cool. Okay. So let's work on getting our OAuth 2 server settings in here, and
All right, I'm going to grab this and put this on my other monitor so I can see it as well. And let's swap back over to here. And the first thing I think we're going to have to do is I reckon we don't have the OAuth library installed there. So I want to have a quick look on Maven Central to sort of see if Ktor OAuth is a separate thing. And we have got Ktor auth, so maybe we're okay with that. So that's good. So let's have a quick look to see if we've got any types in. It's got OAuth 2 in the Ktor auth thing, so I think we're good to go with that. So I don't need to add anything for that. And then the first thing I guess we needed to do was to create a provider. So we had a Google provider in the example there, so let's make an Azure provider. And so there. One thing I didn't mention before, by the way, is what we've got going on here. These are data classes here. So it's another Kotlin feature where you can be very terse with defining a class. And you can just say, my class is going to be called task or tasks here. And these vals along the top here, these are properties of the class. Val means value, it's immutable. You can use var for variable as well. And the fact that it's got data there means that it's a data class, and it gets all the things like get hash code, equality, toString, and everything created for us, which is rather nice. So let's just call this an OAuth provider, and we'll create OAuth server settings. So 2 server settings.
Yep. OAuth 2.
And parameters Azure. So there. So another thing as well is this is actually creating a new instance. So we don't use the new keyword in Kotlin. We just call the constructor directly, and so the constructor becomes just another function, which is nice. And so you can pass the constructor as a function to other things as well, which is rather fun.
So how does that work in lifecycle? Like this is new inferred or implied by virtue of using the constructor, or like okay. So if I didn't
exactly
use
exactly that.
Okay. So if I didn't use a constructor, then I could pass around an existing one. It's just if I pass around the function with a constructor, essentially I'm saying create me a new one of these. Okay.
Yeah. It's basically it's like it's exactly the same as using new. You just don't use the keyword. You just end up calling the constructor, and that's the same sort of Same sort of thing.
Okay, cool. All right.
The client ID, client secret, and default scopes.
Okay. So, are you using Azure AD sort of like an organizational one or B2C?
I think it was
B2C.
right?
So I can show you the config that I was using for. So this, as I say, this one was Rider, and it's got the same project in. Unfortunately, the project doesn't run on Mac; it only runs on Windows. Mono doesn't quite pull it off, unfortunately. But the values are all here, and yes, I'm sharing secrets around, but there's nothing interesting there, and I'll be deleting it after them. So don't add tasks into my task list, people. That'll be awful. But so I've got all of these values here. Some of them mean things to me, some of them don't mean things to me. So I'm not quite sure in this OAuth setup what we would want to be putting in particular places.
Yeah, so they are going to be a little bit different, but that's okay. So there's actually a pretty fast way, I guess, for us to get them. If you've got do you have your Azure AD B2C portal up anywhere?
Not yet. Let me just see. I closed down all my windows before starting this, and I need them back up again.
That's all right.
Okay. We do it all the time too.
Okay, so this is me and my trial values there. Where do you want me to go?
Let's go to B2C. And this is your B2C directory. Cool. So so first let's look at your app registrations. And the application that we're using, which one is that?
My app
Okay,
one.
so let's open that one. And there are a couple of things we need to do in here. So first, let's go to authentication. And Bolt tells us that he had to restart and he lost 142 tabs. I don't understand the super tiny ultra tab thing. I can't. It stresses me out. It makes me anxious to look at it because I'm like, oh my god, what are all these things?
It stresses me out, but I've just been doing it. I've just like 2 days ago, I had a clear out, and it was just so nice. I feel refreshed, and it's great. Delete them. It's good.
Don't be a Bolt. Please don't have 142 tabs open. Be a Matt. Clean out every 2 days.
Yeah, it's good.
Just pave your machine once a month. Okay, so.
No.
Where we're going to be, where we're going to be running this, is it going to be localhost 8080, or is there going to be a whatever URI we're going to use?
Localhost. We'll use 8443.
Okay. So we probably want to keep this open because we're going to need to put that in once we know exactly what it is. But I just wanted to check that it.
Oh, hang on. No, wait a minute. I'm getting confused. I think that was the because I've done 2 samples, and I think this is the one for a different sample. This was the MSA Alpha J, MSALPha J, MSALPha J sample, and this one was actually using standard Fabricam. So this is the task list is a sample straight off GitHub, and it's literally following the values in the documentation. So
Okay.
He didn't create any of these values, So, this is the values which came from Git.
I see. Okay, and that runs then. So whoever owns the Fabricam B2C
sample,
whoever owns the Fabricam B2C directory has checked in secrets to the degree that people can go and actually go and use this. So, Let's do this. So we want to have some because I guess it's expecting these redirect URIs are going to be identical, right? Because you have to be able to set those.
I'll have to change so I'll have to change the port, but that'll be fine. I can quickly change the port in my Dell.
So if you don't have access to Fabricam B2C to see that and make edits to it, which I'm not. Oh, wait a minute.
I don't believe you do.
I seem to have access to it. Hang on a second. I don't think I'm supposed to.
Right, let's change it for
I'm not sure
everyone.
I'm supposed to have access. Oh, no, I don't have access to it. Never mind. So let's do this. Instead of using the sample tenant that's out there, we're just going to create a new one. Because in fact, it looks like you already have one. So the one that you already have listed there, let's open your browser back up to B2C. Go back one to B2C. And it looks like we've got an identity experience framework lit up, so this should be linked up. Click on the endpoints button up there at the top. Okay, those all look good. Grab that B2C OAuth 2 authorization endpoint and the token endpoint. Put those like just in a notepad or something somewhere, because that's what we're going to need those here in a few minutes. So that's our authorized endpoint.
Which one do you say that you want the token one as well? Yeah.
Those are the two that we're going to need. They're identical with the exception of one says authorized and one says token. So the other thing that we need to do is we need to get this application registered so that we get a client ID and a secret for it. And in this, for the sake of maybe making sure that everything's good, go ahead and click all applications over here, or right above where you are right now too. So we can check to make sure that everything is here. So B2C Extensions app is there, which is good, because that's ultimately what we need. So that's good. So let's do a new app registration. And an app registration is sort of it's a linkage to say, this application is going to be using this directory to go and sign users in. And so accounts at any identity provider, we want to leave that. And then our redirect URI, we don't need that right now. Especially if we don't know it yet. So if we don't know what our local running full path is going to be, we can leave that blank. But if you do know what it's going to be, like localhost 80 or 8443 or whatever it's going to be.
I lost you there. Is that me or you?
You. If you know what do you know what host, port, and path will be at?
Yeah, it's 8443.
And then you're going to be at that login root?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll come back to it.
Okay.
Actually, why don't we get to claims, because that will then show us what our claims are once we have logged in. How about that?
Okay, so this is going to be the page that has all of our logic in it for consuming the token, and then we can redirect after that from within the app. But this is a security feature. So this means by having this here, it means I can't go write an app that's on a totally different web server somewhere and have your identity system sign me in, because that would be, obviously there'd be a risk there. So, but we can change this whenever, so it's not a big deal. So go ahead and click register. And this is going to create our application registration. So this is our flag in the sand that says this application is going to use B2C to sign in. So we need kind of two pieces of information out of this page. We need that application ID, that client ID. We need the, go ahead and grab the directory ID, just so that we've got it, just in case we need it. And then we're going to go generate a secret. And when
that's down here.
Yep, so there are two mechanisms for secrets. You can use a certificate, which is what we advise in production, and you can also use a client secret string.
Do not use.
And of course, we can always delete those. You can delete those at any point. So you'll get the secret value right here, which we, obviously production, we want to put that somewhere else, but for now,
this is fine as a comment. What's the worst that could happen?
Okay. So now back in the Azure AD portal, we need to go do one more thing, which is we need to make sure we've got what we call a sign-up policy or sign-in policy. So let's go back to sort of the root of the B2C thing. And over there on the side, we have user flows. Yep. And it looks like you've got a sign-up or sign-in one, which is good. So click that one, and let's copy the name out so that we've got it, because we're going to really all we're going to need out of this one is just the name. So let's go ahead and grab that
Yeah,
one.
make sure to lowercase the whole thing because, oh God, I don't know why, but it needs to be lowercase.
It doesn't have to be lowercase. It can be whatever.
Oh yeah, it breaks a few things. Sometimes if it's not lowercase, it breaks things.
That doesn't sound right, but whatever. I believe you. I'll believe you this time. Show me. Anyway, this is sort of the sign up flow. Good morning, CLW.
Oh, Corey's in the house. CL Dubois, man. Told you.
My wife, I told her about CL Dubois yesterday. I said, I think it's CLW or CLW. Christos thinks it's CL Dubois, and it's it's a constant struggle. Nobody knows. So, okay. Anyway, cool. So we've got our sign up flow. This is good. This is awesome. And I think we're good now to go and integrate this into your app. So let's get back over to your app. And I think we've got all the pieces of data we need. So the authorized URL is that authorized URL that we copied over. So the one that ends in authorized. And we're going to have to make one change to it, which is to include that policy name in there. Which is the B2C_1 sign up sign in one.
Is there not an FTP thingy in there as well?
No, I don't think we need a TFP in there.
TFP. No.
We'll find it.
Do you want me to lowercase it? Just to be sure.
You can if you want.
Lowercase it.
And then we're going to need...
Blazor bakes, by the way. Just out of experience. A painful experience.
And then for the access token, it's pretty much the same thing as the authorized URL. Just instead of token at the end, we've got... or instead of authorized at the end, we've got token. And then, of course, we need the policy name in there. Okay. And then it's a post, so that's good. It's good to know that. And then client ID and secret, I think we've got both of those. And
we say no secret, right? There is a way to work around it. Technically, if you're running that and you're not doing a demo or building like this, you should be using a certificate as well. We encourage people using certificates instead of client secrets.
Yep. So don't use a secret in your code. At least get it into a config file that nobody can access on your web server. But yeah, we want you to use a certificate if you've got it.
Do as we say, not as we do.
When you're in production, local dev,
True.
But also you can't. If it's hard coded in here now, it's checked in. So if it gets checked in somewhere, you're going to be in trouble. So, okay. Cool. So we've got our OAuth configuration here. Mm-hmm. I think that's all we need. So the next.
Do we need to do anything about this? Do we need to do anything about the scopes?
Oh, we do. We need OpenID as one of them, and we need profile as the other.
Profile. Yep.
Was that profile or profiles?
Just profile. Just singular.
Okay.
Yep.
Right.
Cool. Okay. So now we get into that login method, do we not?
Well, we need to first of all install our authentication as part of. Well, we configure our authentication as part of the main installation here. So we've got install. We're saying we want an authentication, but we're doing no configuration in here right now. So we need to sort of configure that.
I see.
Okay. And that one is where we need OAuth. We give it a name, and then in here we can then pass it a builder, which will do the configuration for us there as well. Nice. Looking at the sample there, that just looks like a name that we will use later. So I think we can use, let's just go with Azure OAuth. And looking at the example again, so we'd be using client equals, missing equals, needs to be client. So that means I'm going to use the, I'm using the Apache library to do HTTP client calls out, and then I can add extra sort of configuration going on there as well if I wanted to, but I don't think we need to, so hopefully it'll be okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Provide lookup, I want to give a function, so hence the curly brackets, that's a function, which will return me back a provider, and I should just be able to do OAuth. No, if I could spell OAuth provider. So that'll do it there. So now this is a function which, when called, will simply return back a wealth provider, which we defined up here.
Ah, nice.
I see.
Okay,
cool.
So we could put logic in there as well if we wanted to, I presume, and decide. And that was what I guess the other example was doing further up in the page. There was a bit more logic to sort of say, well, in this circumstances use this provider, in other circumstances use another provider.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So if you wanted to use multiple providers on the app side instead of, say, adding multiple providers to B2C, you could do that. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Hey, Matt, somebody's asking, is Kotlin a compiled or interpreted language?
It's compiled. It's absolutely compiled. It's compiled straight down. In our case now, it's compiled down to JVM. And there's a lot of nice things in there where it's, like C#, it does a lot of type inferencing, but it is statically typed, so everything is known up front. So you can have, val name equals Matt. I'm not saying that's a string, but we know it's a string. If I hover over there, it'll tell us it's a string, and you can specify the type explicitly, and it will have it in there. So we've got sort of type inferencing there, but if I'm defining a method, a function, keep on calling them methods, they're not their functions. You have to define the type there as well. Right. But yeah, it's compiled, fully compiled, statically typed. You've got classes, functions, and whatnot. When we compile down to JavaScript, again, that is still compiled down as well. You end up with JavaScript. And of course, the native version is also down to native code rather than JVM bytecode.
Nice.
So it did, yeah, very, very similar to sort of C#, really. URL provider, we've got a redirect URL. I'm going to say that we need to redirect that to the link we had to the path we put into the portal just now.
Yep.
And now we need to define this redirect call. So let me just jump down to the bottom of the file and paste that in from the
Are you pasting it outside your class or whatever? Is that going to work?
Yes, because this isn't a class. Again, this is a top-level function. So I've actually got very few classes in here. The only classes I've got are these two lines here.
Ooh,
but
okay.
Those are the only classes there. Everything else is a top-level function. So we've got main as a top-level function. We've got, in fact, a value here. So the equivalent of a property or a field as a new instance. And then we've got another top-level function, which is an extension function on application.
Right.
Down the bottom here, we've got another extension method, which is extension function, which is an extension function on application call. And in fact, let me split that. And if I go back to where it's being called, we can see we've got this is application call, and now
interesting.
Redirect URL is there. So that's now an extension function on this, which is application call.
Very nice.
Not entirely sure this is correct, because with one thing we're in port 8443.
And where does the server get started?
Up in the main, up the top here. So when this is run effectively as an executable, the Java runtime will execute this as an executable. It'll call main, and the first thing main does is basically hand over to Netty and tells Netty to spin up its engine and Ktor's plumbing for Netty.
So where's the config for that? Like, is that just like a system level or project level config for what port and all that sort of stuff, or?
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, that's in my resources folder again. I've got application.conf.
Okay, cool.
This tells me tells me which port I'm trying to use there. If I wanted to be HTTP, I would just have port equals 8080, and it would that would work as well.
Okay, cool.
But I want to be on SSL for 8443, and then I'm telling it that there's my SSL configuration for my temporarily created certificate. And this is the module that I'm working on there as well. And that module is, if I go back down here, it's what gets used here, really.
Right.
And what I'm
extending. So I guess there are kind of two ways to think about how we could do it. So on the one hand, like if in one of the things I saw in the doc, we could have a login page or login route, and that login route is what handles setting up the session and consuming the OAuth stuff, and then that redirects to the claims place. Or I guess we could have the claims place just do all that work, right? Set the session and then show back the data.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm happy to do it anyway, Richard.
Okay. Whichever works best for you.
Let's do it, because actually claims is at a different route. So why not? Let's do this one as. Let's just change this to login.
Okay.
Login, and in fact, if looking at this redirect URL, it basically returns us back a thing. It tries to figure out what the best path is. We know what the path is, so why don't we just return it directly anyway? Again, we probably wouldn't want to hard code this anywhere else, but we can do this.
Yeah. Okay.
In this instance, let's join that up there. And in fact, now I can get rid of that because it's not used.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yeah, I'm telling you, every time these JetBrains guys come on here, I'm like, ooh, this is so neat. I'm going to go start writing Kotlin and using Rider and using IntelliJ. And, like, it just, I don't know, just there's so many, like, small quality of life updates. So,
yeah, it's a lot of fun. It is. The tools are a lot of fun to use. It's got to be said. All right, so I guess we want to write our login provider here, login handler there. Right. Now what do we do?
Now it looks like our login call is our login call has an authenticate wrapped around it, right?
Yes.
And I'm making an assumption here, but that because we're using a Ktor OAuth provider, Ktor is going to handle the redirect of redirecting the user over where they got to go, right? So we don't actually have to do the redirect ourselves. By virtue of this being an authenticate, being wrapped in this authenticate, which it looks like we need like authenticate and then the name of the provider, the OAuth provider. I think Ktor is going to handle that for us, so we can essentially assume that this login path is going to be that this login path is going to be authenticated.
Yeah. Okay. So that's there. So yes, I'm not quite sure what is the thing that kicks it off first.
As in, how do we get there?
We want to. Yeah, because we're going to say that /login here is what happens at the end, isn't it?
Yeah, so my assumption is that because our OAuth configuration has the authorized URL, so if we go back up to the config that we've got for our provider, our OAuth 2 provider, so the authorized URL, that's where we send the user. So that's where the user sees their login page and types in their creds or does whatever. So that's where we're going to send the user. And so usually, and this is not a rule by any stretch, but most OAuth libraries handle the fact that I have to redirect a user over there. I guess the question is, what causes authentication to start short of going to an authenticated path? Or an authenticated path in your app? Like, what's going to trigger that to happen in Ktor? So let's see.
So I can't see it in the session, but what we could do is, sorry, I can't see it in the example. Is what we could do is when we click the sign up or sign in link on the web page, that could just be a simple redirect to the OAuth's URL, wouldn't it?
I believe so. Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So when you go there, that essentially like in ASP.NET, it's called a challenge, where we, it's because challenge is a sort of default term for how do we challenge a user to sign in. That path handles the thing that says, oh, you should go and sign in. Like, it might have a button that goes you to the redirect thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So
I wonder if we should just take that and put that in our authenticate. So it might.
Yeah.
Just looking at the Google session there, it looks like perhaps if you try and go to /login, it will immediately try and do something and redirect you and do things, and then you end up at /login and it can finish the job.
Yeah.
Whereas we don't have anything to sort of start with that. So if we went to /login, it'd be okay. If we click the link, we're going to try and go to this link. The authenticate will kick in and say, okay, nice try. I'm going to redirect you. We do the whole thing and we end up then at /login. So we possibly don't even have to do anything there, which would be nice.
Yep.
Exactly.
Let's give that a go. Let's see what happens.
That's my guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Only one way to find, just run it.
Exactly. So we need to do a bit more work here, I guess. Well, I don't know. Should we just run what we've got at the moment and see how that works?
Yeah.
So
this should at least do the this should at least get us redirected. Yeah.
Okay, we're running there. So if I go back to my to-do list, just reload that to be sure. And if I click sign up, sign in. No, what do we got? What's that saying? The redirect URI localhost login provided in the request is not registered for the client ID. Blah. So that seems like did Azure?
No, that's good. That's good.
Did I get to Azure?
It looks like
that went up to Azure then, didn't it?
It did, because it's saying that the redirect URI is mismatching. So what that means is because we've got claims and hours, we need to actually change it to change it to login, right?
Yep. And
not there. App registration.
Thank you. I was trying to remember where it was. Kotlin.
Mm-hmm.
And that was
authentication. No. Authentication on the right-hand side, left-hand side, and then change
that's wrong.
You're right.
We said login in the end, didn't we? Yeah.
Everyone subscribed to the movement. Thank you. Nice.
Save at the top. Okay.
Yeah, don't forget to press save. Sometimes people forget to do that, and.
Cool. So the fact that you got here, that's awesome, right?
Yeah.
It is.
So this means that our redirect is happening. So that means because if you hit your app, right, if you were to go to localhost 8443 right now, you should be redirected right back here, right?
Correct. Let's see. That's the plan anyway.
If I just hit that, even the unauthenticated bits.
Yep. And if you were to hit like sign up, for example, that takes us to our login, or that takes us to one of those routes, and now you're being asked to sign in. So that's awesome. So that means that we are configured on the first leg is configured. So now we can get here. Mm-hmm. So once you sign in, then it's just a matter of making sure we consume that in a way that doesn't require you to constantly re-sign in.
Which is just what's happened. I just clicked the Microsoft link and it's bounced me back, I think.
So no, that's good.
Okay, there we go.
That's good. So
that's good. We've gone to the login page.
Yep. And it looks like we've got some state, which is good. So that means that the B2C config knows what we've got, and it looks good. So I'm going to pull up the.
I'm going to grab the stuff from the example, paste that in, and figure out what bits are wrong. So it doesn't like handle to start with. Why not?
Fun handle. I like how it says fun handle, right?
Yeah. We make a lot of out of the fact that functions are fun. It's Kotlin, the language with fun. It's great. Don't know what am I doing there? Can't be called in this context by implicit receiver.
So it's I don't know. We may actually need a handle, do we? It looks like the real meat of what's happening is that call.authentication principle. I believe that's pretty much that's the bulk of what actually needs to happen. I don't know what the handle part does though.
So it installs a handler into the root, which will be called when the route is selected for a call. So
Okay.
that seems to be that it will. I'm doing it on get. We want to do it under root. That's what things.
Yep.
So what this is saying then is given /login. So I mean, I could have this as that might be a more thing, or if this was the secure section of my site, then anything under secure would call this handle method.
Right.
And then it would get the principal if it's available, do some stuff to get more details.
Yeah,
and save that into sessions and then redirect.
Yeah, so that line numbers seem strange, but that line 10.
Yes. So
what is that?
That's me seeing that.
How's that even possible?
I'm using Vim. You see, so I'm using Vim. Those are relative line numbers.
Oh.
And so they changed there. So if I wanted to get up to the authenticate method up there, I can see it's 13 lines away. So I can do 13 up, and it takes me up there.
I see.
If I wanted to get down to the bottom,
Okay.
18 down, it takes me down to there. So it's
no comment.
It's me and Vim. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I told you I've been in software for a long time. I mean, I'm a Vim user. He's like, get off my lawn.
So we don't need
Which line?
We don't need that line, or we don't need that method really at all. That part of the method, because that calls a user info endpoint. So user info is a way to say I've got a token. Tell me about the user, and it's essentially a way to get claims. But there are two different ways to do claims. You can either get claims in the token, or you can get a set of claims afterward with the token. And what we do is called transparent JWTs, and our tokens that we issue for identity, called the ID token, they're transparent, so you can read and decode them, and you don't have to make a second call to a user info endpoint to go and get it. There is a user info endpoint available, but it's an extra call that you don't have to make. The one thing that is in there, I think, are lines 3, 2, and 1, where we've got to get an ID, and then that call session set my session ID. That is, I believe, this is where KTOR essentially logs the user in, and then now I don't go back to the identity system until my app cookie expires. So this is sort of the transition between I signed in an external provider. I don't want to go back to that external provider again. On every single request that we have to authenticate on. So we want KTOR to handle that for us, which is usually done. The pattern usually is the app itself issues a local cookie, and that's what we do it with.
Yeah, so we've got a session there, and if we look up here, we can say that we're trying to get the value from our session. And here we've installed and configured session handling there, and it's doing sessions by cookies.
Okay, cool, perfect. So that's probably, so we need to get this in there too, and that way we can issue cookies so that we're not asking a user to
doing it every single time,
asking the user bouncing them over to B2C every single time they go to sign in. So, excuse me.
Okay, so I need my session as well. My session was a simple class. There we go. So that's a full class definition there. It's just one class which has got a user ID as a...
That's a very C# 9-ish, right? Or C# 9 copied this one.
C# very Kotlin, yeah.
Almost like a record.
It's similar to a record, but that is more like a record.
Right.
That is definitely more like a record, because records in C# 9 have the equality and hash codes, and that's what the data annotation gives you here. So there's a difference. But let's keep the classes together. We could make this one to a data class as well. Actually, I guess it wouldn't make any difference. But yes, there's definitely a similarity going on with those. Let's go up here. Introduce import alias. What do you like?
Vicious is on the channel as well. Welcome.
Hey, Vicious. Good morning, or afternoon, or whatever.
Afternoon, evening.
Oh, there it is. Okay, that's good. Why is that giving me a warning? Experimental API, it's fine.
Experimental? Hex?
Hexperimental. I like it.
Hexperimental? That sounds very fun.
All the times today, all the times. I mean, we're doing
I
great.
couldn't help it.
It's going fine. Yes. So the standard library has a bunch of things, and we introduce some APIs as experimental, so that we can sort of make sure that they are correct as in later releases. So you kind of have to opt into something that could easily change. We might change the signature of that, but you're opting into experimental APIs, so you know it. You know the issue there. Right. So we need to somehow get an ID from this principal. So we've got a principal and we've got an ID, but we don't know what else is there. So how can we pull the ID out of the token?
Can we actually do a breakpoint there and see what comes back as the principal?
Yep, indeed. Let's do. Tell you what. Let's do call dots. Respond with
breakpoint driven development.
And I mean, there should be, I hope somewhere KTOR has a way for us to look at the claims that came back, or at least to parse the JWT and do validation on it. So if they're in that principal object, we can look in there and see what they are. And if not, we can look and find a way to validate and decode those JWTs with KTOR.
Yep.
Well, there is some support for JWT with KTOR, so that might be useful.
Yeah, I mean,
let's hit this breakpoint first, and let's see where we're going. So back here,
one step at a time, baby steps.
Yeah, I mean, the worst case would be that we have to parse and handle the JWT ourselves. In most cases, I would expect. Seeing as we've got a pretty good library here, my expectation would be that this is going to do some of the work for us. So, so we got to change that route, because this route is now called secure and it's redirected. So we can just make it log in again.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's look and see.
I forgot to change that.
Let's look and see what's in that principal object.
So you know that JP is like the Matrix, right? He sees the errors coming out from AD and he doesn't know how to parse them. He just sees the errors.
Like, oh no, I was still on the third hex digit. It was
Oh, that's good. That's good. So we're hitting it, which is good.
Why didn't that?
But
it might be.
It's still giving us a 401 though, almost as if it's happening before.
It returns back to your app.
Yeah. Hey, I wonder if we've got stuff on. Do we have any shout out things that we've connected with yet? That we've created yet? CLW. I wonder. No, we don't.
Side outs?
I got to figure out all the stream elements like.
Oh
things.
yes, we haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, we will be doing it.
Yeah. Anybody who's a Stream Elements Pro needs to ping me and say, "Hey, can you help? Can you? You guys need to do this if you're going to hang around Twitch much longer." So, I'm interested. I'm curious here, like what? Because I'm looking at a couple different Kotlin sort of authenticate things out here, and everything says we have to have this authenticate at the beginning of our. So it's in the routing block or the routing block. And then we've got a route, and the route is. Oh, now that is one thing. This is going to be a post. It's gonna be posting to log in, not doing a get, because it's essentially.
All right, so I'm. Sorry, I interrupted.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I don't quite know what route is, so I'm just trying to see what happens if you do it.
Okay.
I wasn't hitting that. The breakpoint gets. Okay, handle is called. Oh yeah, that makes sense because we're configuring everything. This is startup, so it's configuring everything.
Right.
Right. So there. But yes, I'm not sure what root does. I know what post does, so I'm just trying that one there. And
So yeah,
Localhost page can't be found.
well,
Is it the redirect?
well, no, we're getting a 401. So it's almost as if
Right.
Authenticate is not seeing this as as an authenticated thing, right?
Oh, that's a 404 this
the
time.
404.
Well, this was an old one
Though.
though.
Couldn't find the page. No, that's the new one. Just came out.
Yeah, just refreshed.
Yeah.
So let's just do that.
Yeah. So this is a different error message.
So this is trying to do a get. Yep. So just change that back to a get. It should be a post, but we'll sort that out here in a minute.
So the endpoint only accepts a get. Interesting.
Well, I'm sure it does accept a post. We just have to get it. We just have to make sure everything's configured correctly.
Mm-hmm. Login. That's a 401 this time.
Okay, so that's a 401. So the 401 is essentially saying the 401 is saying that we're unauthenticated, right? 401 is authenticate. So I'm wondering, how do we? That's the thing I don't understand is we've got it says you registered this root while also applying your authentication. Serves to start the authorization request and handle the redirect URI and subsequent token request. At this point, we can also access the user principal. So,
What are you reading?
just a doc on KTOR with OAuth 2. So,
What happens when you're on this one, Matt, again, without the get?
Yeah, so just checking what root does there. Root is what get ends up calling. So
Right.
root registers a root. So if we have a look at this overload, for example, there, that's saying, give me a root based on this path, and it'll receive this method. And if we can, I don't know if get's going to be in here. Yeah, get is there. Well, okay, post is there anyway. It calls root path with post. So, in fact, there we go. Root path with get. So that kind of registers the handler for there. So root basically means handle all methods. That's what it was saying.
I wonder if we need to handle different methods differently. Although that shouldn't really matter. So let's see. So we got our user session. That looks good. Excuse me.
There. So how about if we have?
Oh, and do you have a? Can we go check your authentication? Your authentication settings. Make sure that we've got I'm pretty sure we have a post in there, right?
Where am I looking at? In the
back into
top
the
of this file.
Azure AD.
Yeah, where we configure
or here.
Yeah, okay. So request method post. Yep. Okay, that looks good.
We need to see if there are any other interesting methods. Get on the request by default. Default scopes.
So let's see. So I wonder what the difference is between. Let's see. So do you have? Is this the only? Do you have like a routing block anywhere?
So this whole section where we are right now is
okay.
all about
I see.
that, yes.
Okay, so actually, instead of it being well, no, that looks correct. Authenticate. Let me check again. So routing. So first we have the routing block, then we have an authenticate block, and we've got that there, and then we have in our authenticate block. So then, and tell me again, what was the reason for having the handle there? Did we remember?
I don't really know.
Okay.
So what handle does? So it installs a handler into the root, which will be called when the root is selected for a call. So I think it's like it happens before any kind of processing happens. So I think it just happens earlier in the pipeline.
That would be why then.
So
because if it's happening
too
it's
early.
happening too early. it's happening before. Like we can't even get into that call because it's seeing it as unauthenticated, so we can't even create the principal yet. So that must be that. I think that must be what's going on.
Let's see.
Oh,
Why is that unreachable code?
Oh.
What? What?
Hey, that's the whole point of the show, Bolt. It's too early. That's the HTTP status code, 425. 425 forever.
It's too early.
Yeah, I did not know that. That was a useful thing.
So okay, let me look one more time at what I was looking at.
Distilled post, maybe?
Yes, we've got.
Do you need to call distilled post?
We do post, so let's grab those lines and try.
We need to, yeah, so this will still be inside of like a, I think this will still be inside of like a get.
Get or a post?
It should be inside of a post, but it looked like it wasn't earlier, so let's still do a get.
Let's do both.
Actually, instead of a, in fact, we may not even need, well, yeah, that's fine, okay. At least for the moment, so that's cool. Okay, so this is our login, this is essentially our callback, right? And then we're expecting to be able to access that code there, right? On line line 1 relative to where you are now, I guess.
That is so weird, by the way.
There you go, just for you.
Sorry, just messing with you, man. So you're having Vim inside IntelliJ, right? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Ooh.
It's great. It's great. It's because the IDE gives you all the smarts for the languages and stuff like that, whereas the Vim stuff gives you lots of just plain old text editing, and there's tons and tons of... Don't get me started on Vim. Vim's great.
No, I'm not.
All right, so let's take the... And if we get rid of the handle entirely...
yeah. Do you think that's still happening?
Well, let's
Can we put a breakpoint on the principal and the get and in the post?
Line 121.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not happening. So what I think the root and the handle does actually. So if get okay, no. So I think handle would get called when this root gets called in some respect. So handle is probably saying handle for any call on this root, rather than do for a get or for a post or anything. If you see what I mean there. So root is generic. Handle all methods on this particular root, and handle says this is what you do when this root is called. Whereas if you have get, you just kind of do it directly.
Let's try with just a get and comment everything else out. I wonder if other things are called at the same time.
Yeah, so that's just
Not secure.
come on, wake up. Wake up.
Still building, right? Oh.
Yeah, it's taking its time to build. And there we don't hit the breakpoint there, so that hasn't worked for some reason.
Are we hitting the breakpoint in the hand? See, I think that if the handle is going to cause this to run before the method body itself runs, then
I'm not convinced it is actually, thinking about it, because I think it's the way you get to say that if you have a root which is for all methods, then this is how you handle all methods.
Right. Okay, so yeah, because everything I'm looking at is just a get. Like there's just a get listed there. There's not a root. But if that's what if that's what it is, then that's what it is.
We can do that and just have a get.
Mm-hmm.
So does the example there with Google then, how it works? Does Google then have a different process of doing things so that?
No, in effect, you end up calling an endpoint, right? And that endpoint.
Yeah,
the difference is, do you look at a? The difference is in, do you? Our buddy Putt has shown up, who's a big Google and Kotlin guy, but. The way Google does it is a little bit different in that instead of getting the user data in a token that you can read, you take the token they give you and you send that to what's called the user info endpoint. And the user info endpoint is the thing that gives you back the claims. But both of them are valid. Like some providers use user info, some providers don't. It's part of the spec, so you have to support it if it's there, but it's not a requirement.
And that wouldn't give us a different workflow.
No.
So I mean, I know we got the work there, but for this particular thing, getting this principle, getting the token response there, that shouldn't change anything there, should it?
No, that shouldn't change anything. So
what's going to happen? What's going to happen if I do that?
The error message says unauthorized, right? Do you see the error message that came up before?
Yeah, it's given us a 401 which the way that it reads is it says authenticate, which in my mind is almost like an attribute that says, oh, this is authentication, but this has to be an authenticated call. But I guess all the docs are saying that that's sort of how you process it. So well, let's see what's in there.
Oh, that's the first time that we hit the breakpoint.
Yeah, but we don't get a principle.
Yeah, which leads me to believe something isn't. It's like sort of not consuming the response correctly.
Expecting an element. Error message.
Well, and that may be because this is not. That may be because a post is actually happening. If you open up the dev tools, can you step through there so we can see if we're getting a post or a get back from B2C?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure.
Because my assumption is that's trying to take the response and cast it into this OAuth access token response. And of course, if the data's not there, then it doesn't matter.
It will not cast.
Well, yeah, because it can't cast to something it doesn't have the data for. Because if it's being posted in, then we wouldn't get it in the get method anyway, right?
It says, is login live URL correct when it's redirecting? That's a question from Bolt.
Yeah, that should be fine because that's coming from that's the B2C config. That's happening B2C side. You may have to do. Oh, you've got preserve log. Okay, good. All right, so we sign in. All right, so let's look at that login, this login call here, and let's look at the method on it.
That's too big. So it is a get.
So that's a get, although that is a 401. It shouldn't be a get. It should be a post. Look at that auth response right above the network call right before this one. Auth RESP. And that'll have a 302 in there. And it should be, 302 post, 302, and then the response is location. Okay, so that's cool. So that's got the code in it. That's the authorization code that gets sent back to B2C.
Yep.
So for the moment, just so that we can figure out exactly where the issue is, for the moment in your OAuth config, let's change that from a post to a get, where we've got request method. Let's change that to a get, and we'll run it again and see if it comes through.
Build failed. What?
That's Gradle, because it's when it runs, it's still running Gradle, and then you have to basically kill the build to restart.
Gotcha.
So it's saying, oh, you've killed the build. And it's like, no, just stop running. Still got
that's okay. So go back to your go back one more thing here. Let's see. OAuth server response is okay, but neither error nor access token provided. So go back to your B2C portal briefly.
Do we need to check in the tokens?
No, we need a scope to also include we need to request an access token in addition to an ID token.
Right, scroll down.
So just look under API permissions on the left-hand side. Go back to go back to your application list. Or yeah, that's fine. And go back to expose an API. and just add a scope. And you can just call it. That's fine. Just hit save and continue, and then we'll add a new scope, and you can call it. User is fine in the scope name. Same for the admin consent name. That's fine. That's fine too. So add that scope.
Love it.
Yep, add that scope, and then add.
The user is damn fine.
Yep. And then go back to
Grab the
go back
scope.
to API permissions. And try to add a permission to ourselves here, and hit add a permission, and my APIs on the far right, and Kotlin, and then choose that user is fine. Add that one. You'll have a button up at the top to grant admin consent. I don't mean to rush you, but we've only got 5 minutes, so I'm trying to get it through. And then grant admin.
Sorry.
It's all good. Grant admin consent for Ellis org. Right there in the middle. Yes, you want to do that. Grab that user. User is fine here.
Mm-hmm.
Do we just want just the text?
No. Sorry. Click it, and then you'll be able to get the full scope.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
go back over,
And
and
then-
then paste that into your scope list. Okay. This might still blow up, but that's okay. We'll get there. All right. Let's run it again and see. Let's see what we get.
Go on.
Silence.
That's okay.
The
Desperate
It's
anticipation.
intense. I
Come
want to
on,
know.
do it.
I want to see what we're gonna get.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, okay. That's what I thought.
damn.
Yeah, so it's
Great.
looking for a token, so it got a token, which is great, and so now I think we can put it back in the authenticate block because it's going to be able to parse that response and get the data that it needs out of it.
Yes.
So it's already in the authenticate
Oh,
block.
good. Okay, but didn't you have a
So
second
this was it. So we've got.
one? Okay.
Didn't hit the breakpoint though, right?
I wasn't debugging.
Okay.
Ah,
I
right.
can debug if you want.
So now the big thing will be this. The last step to this is using the Kotlin JWT or the KTOR JWT libraries for reading that JWT to get the claims out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll get the claims out, and that's what we'll use to set the ID here for the session. And then essentially we'd be done with the authentication portion of our thing. So what are you doing on Monday, Matt? You want to come back and do the other half? So, yeah, like if you get a chance and you want to, and you have an opportunity to share this on GitHub or anything with us, please let us, and we'll make sure that everybody gets their copy. So,
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'd be. I mean, if you're kidding about Monday, I'll come back and finish up if you want to.
well, we'll ping you later. We'll look at our schedule and see.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's. We'll let us look at our schedule and see what's going on Monday, and even if we can just get you back for an hour or something, that'd be great. So
Yeah. The crowd. You're a crowd pleaser.
yeah.
Bald is saying yes. Please make a return, Matt. It's been a pleasure. So there you go.
So
I'll like the sound of that. Well, perhaps we can get it working. That'd be nice.
So yeah, well, cool. Well, thanks for coming and hanging out with us today. The Sandman's gonna come on with the hook and take us all off of here in a minute. So, but thanks for coming to hang out with us, and we really appreciate you coming and putting in all this work. And I think we are like super close. We're this close to seeing it now. That at least we're getting our OAuth 2 response back. Now we just have to do something with it.
Yes.
So, so yeah.
It's been a lot of fun actually. It's been really interesting. Working our way towards getting it done there is good.
All right, cool. Well, then follow us on Twitter, and we will mention what's going to happen on Monday, whether or not we're going to get our good friend Citizen Matt to come back and hang out with us. So keep an eye out. Hopefully, we'll be back on Monday. If not next Monday, we will find a day to get you back to do this as soon as possible.
Oh yeah, you're coming.
So,
Could be a Wednesday. Who knows? We can do.
we'll do an ad hoc
for,
one whenever. So everybody have a great weekend. Find us on Twitter. Send us an email. Go to that link and send us your stories, and we'll send you cups and T-shirts and stickers and all sorts of fun stuff. And we'll see everybody. We'll see y'all next week. Bye.
y'all.